got Juan, who owns a shop, Adrian, who owns a barn, and Cody, who is the best training handler you'll ever meet in your life. So we're just gonna bullshit for about an hour on different car shit. I'll let them introduce themselves. Juan.
Hey, what's going on, guys? So I'm Juan Mejia. I own Mejia Racing out of Jacksonville, North Carolina. Army vet. Decided to get out and pursue my dreams. Not really somebody else's dream, but yeah. So I specialize in motorcycles. I do some car stuff. We're in a little bit of short track racing. We also do some drag racing, bracket stuff, but primarily bikes. We build custom bikes. So that's it.
Cody, I can't take him seriously. Juan's English has improved so much thanks to the English as a second language program. All right, we got Adrian up there in the corner.
Hi, everybody. My name's Adrian, and I don't know who's Cody.
Go to your microphone. We can hear your whole family.
So rude. So rude.
Not professional.
Yeah.
At all.
I mean, I don't know what to tell y'all. I'm literally the resident dumbass, I guess. I don't know.
It's a training handler.
That I have to deal with. I definitely am one of those. I mean, to be honest with you, I think I actually met all of y'all before anything to do. But no, before any car shit was a thing. Like other than maybe Adrian, because I know I met you literally when that Evo blew up.
Which time?
And I was trying to buy wheels. So like
Yeah.
the Evo,
Everybody's always trying to buy wheels.
The Evo 4 that y'all had, and then I think Juan. I don't know. I feel like I've known Juan forever, the most. He tried to hop international borders behind my house. And then I remember, and you know what? Actually, the first night that I met Adrian was, Juan did a rolling burnout in his Subaru in front of his house, and he was like, "This fucking asshole," and then walked away. And I didn't meet him. I didn't meet him again for like another maybe 6 months. I was like, okay, this is cool.
Dude, that was the night we were working on your Sil 80.
To put this in context, when Cody says that Juan was jumping international borders in his backyard, he doesn't mean Mexico. He means he was trying to break base from Japan.
Yeah, pretty much.
He was trying to break into Japan from American soil.
Oh, okay.
Did you remember we had to pull him back off the fence because he got stuck?
Hey, I just want you to know, you skipped my introduction to go on your tangent, Cody. Well, I was trying to tell you to shut up, and you just kept going.
Cheers to that one.
And back to Adrian.
All right. I'm Adrian. Some of you know me as Skinny 5 Racing, and yeah, I'm the resident drifter in this little gang of fuckboys. So let's get rowdy. Let's party hardy.
Yeah, Adrian's here to get us canceled immediately, if at all possible. And of course,
I'm here.
Really, at least put us on a watch.
No.
I've got my money on Seth to get us canceled first.
Why?
Look,
you're
no. So, but here's the thing: is Seth is going to tell everybody to do the right thing, spend the money, buy the right stuff, yada yada yada. And I'm the dude that's just going to be like, shut up and race. And I'm going to say everything that doesn't go with like modern day clout chasing, which puts you in that algorithm of getting canceled.
Wasn't your first competition in the States with a with the S13 that was like completely gutted, like no door panels.
So, yes, that car was hacked up.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
like every one of your cars, it was hacked up. All right. So yeah,
I like
I'm
cars.
Gaijin tuning out in
Hey,
the Philippines. The actual
Hang on,
professional.
he had
Unlike you.
a sick nasty angle kit though.
Yeah. Well, I still remember when Adrian decided to cut his trunk out in the middle of my driveway in Japan. So, like, hey, is that a plasma cutter?
I definitely remember that because that was like version 3.4 of your FD that we were building at the same time. Well, I'm not gonna say I was building. I was present in the garage.
That
I
was
do.
Spectating.
the second or third motor and the second trans.
I like to party.
It's been on the road once.
It's been on the road
In
once.
like a 10 years.
Shut
Yeah,
up.
well, no. Yeah, so I remember that because Joe had gone back to the States because my daughter Charlotte was just born, and her family couldn't travel out, and I was pretty much living in Seth's garage for like 3 months.
I do remember
So
Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
because then we crunched down on it. We crunched down on it and got it all the way down there, and everything seemed like it was running good, and then it just shit oil everywhere. And I remember helping him putting it on a tow truck and then driving him home at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, the turbo return line fucking burned out. Remember, we replaced it the next day. Also, does anyone else get like those Duck Dynasty vibes from Cody? Like every memory he's telling us is like a PTSD flashback. He's like, I remember back in Okinawa.
See, look, I'm telling you right. Look, there's a few things that I've learned with y'all. One, it's really easy to get.
Kicked
Oh,
out
look
of the
who got
meeting.
canceled.
How did he leave?
It looked like he was in his garage where he's got shitty service.
I don't know. Anyway,
He's got a detached garage.
I'm sure he'll come back.
His Wi-Fi
Okay,
really hit.
but since you brought it up, you have to. So what everybody has to remember is you burnt your oil return line on your turbo like 5 times in a week that weekend.
No, it was
You
just
did.
the one. I
No.
burned that line. That wasn't a turbo return line that we borrowed off the other car. It was like a fucking breather hose. And I kind of get
Jesus.
back on it.
I gave
That's
you.
what happened. That's what happens when you live out in the middle of nowhere.
I gave you my my catch can hose
Yeah,
for us to make the oil return line.
yeah. It lasted like 3 kilometers.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first time I ever rode in that
last
car.
decade.
The first time I ever rode in that car, I forgot what we were going to some kind of event over in American Village. And you're like, you want to see what 40 pounds of boost feels like? And I'm like, fuck it. With my fat ass barely fitting in your extra small seat. I'm sitting there tucked back. You smack the throttle, sit my ass back, and then all you see is poof, and the hood goes, whoa, 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 whoa. And I'm like, what was that? He goes, it's just intercooler piping.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Blew the pipe
Okay.
time.
I'm not.
Cody
gonna-
got spun out. Why are we just telling stories about my car?
because look, this is the intro that we need. Which obviously all three of you are amazing mechanics. Personally, hard to deal with.
I'm not.
No, you are when you want it. You want it done. If it's your shit, you are for sure. If somebody doesn't piss you off, sure.
Hold on. As the guy that's tuned his cars that he's built, disagree.
Oh, I
Yeah.
haven't. I've changed my
Somebody
engine
wants-
47 times since I've been back to the States.
Sorry, I stopped listening after you said I was an amazing mechanic.
He can't wrap. He can't wrap his head around
Look,
that.
I can't believe you actually said that. Thank you.
look, I didn't say car mechanic. You're a pretty good motorcycle mechanic.
Hey, he did do that Subaru job in the auto hobby shop at Kadena.
No, that's- wow.
Dude.
Twice.
If y'all could have seen the Subaru job when he needed my help and I drove down to Jacksonville. I told myself I was never, ever going to buy a Subaru after that. And to this day, if anybody asks me, I will fucking never own a Subaru.
It was that
Ever.
it was that clutch that you had sent me a couple years back for that like 17 Subaru or whatever WRX. We were doing a clutch job on.
That dual density shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I don't know why I'm looking at picking up a GDB SEI out here in the near future. I talked to Kevin up at Okie Subies. He was on the last podcast, but he's got the Wantabi open center diff for me, so I can do a rear-wheel drive STI. So, pretty good times.
Well, I think it's
And
crazy that Watanabe is the only company that makes that open diff right now. Like, they are the only company that makes open diff for a Subaru, which blows my mind.
I mean, most people aren't stupid enough to
Well, I
put
think
a car on a Subaru, but here I am.
Hey, I mean, I sent y'all that picture of that STI, which what was a 03, 04 STI, which I wouldn't do the swap anyways, just because of they're getting the rarity of them, or I guess they're starting to get rare. But a turbo LS that fit underneath the hood,
Oh yeah,
and like a 03, 04 WRX STI.
dude, they put like a TDO or not a TDO, so they put like a T56 on it too.
So I think Adrian and me, this is one of the only things that we'll agree on. I don't give a damn about the rarity of these Japanese cars. Like, unless it's a Hakosuka or an L110 Cosmo or an RX3, like a 60s or 70s classic, I don't give a shit.
Look,
I mean,
don't
if it's a car that drives, like, I want to throw it sideways at 100 miles an hour. I don't care what it is. I want to do that.
I mean, I think everybody has that one car that I think that they would never touch, regardless of what it is. Whether
I would touch it. I would molest it.
I mean, I already took the Skyline apart.
I would cut the trunk out of every damn car on the planet.
Yeah, I'm about to cut the trunk out of the Skyline as soon as I can get the fuel cell here.
And make my own angle.
Hey, I got a Toyota 2000 GT that I need one of y'all to cut the trunk out of, and
I got a
build
sawzall
an angle
in the
kit
back.
for it.
There's
You know what I mean?
Sawzalls in the barn.
I've got a plasma cutter. I've got oxyacetylene. You take your pick.
It's actually really nice having the R33 drift chassis here at the shop because I can basically just molest it because it's a race car. Like, I don't have to worry about restoring it. Just keep the engine clean and fucking do the rest, man. I finally get to do some EPA shit.
That sounds like Adrian and every one of his cars.
Yeah.
Drive it hard.
I gotta get a new pipe bender so I want to tube the front and rear, put the jack points in it like Adrian did, put the bash bars on. And just
Dude, that job. So that ended up being way simpler than I thought it was going to be. But it's so much better having that front end on the car. Like, it literally takes me 5 minutes to detach everything. And then I'm like standing in the corner of like the strut tower and the frame rail. And I can like look down and I'm like, oh, hey, let me just change number 6 spark plug real quick.
I mean, it needs to be said because we come across as morons when we talk to each other half the time. Like, I think a lot of French groups do. But Cody's right, man. Everyone here is pretty mechanically inclined. Like, Adrian just finished putting the tube chassis front end on his JZX. Was it the JZX he did it on?
On the 100, yeah.
And I mean,
I've built the RX-7 they're all bashing on. I've built from the ground up with a billet 20B in it and did all chassis harness, wiring, engine harness for the Motec PDMs and the Mtron ECUs I'm tuning. Juan's built a ton of custom choppers and runs a pretty successful like day-to-day mechanic shop. I mean, not to put it down, but your jobs are more day-to-day as far as it comes to the cars. As far as I can tell, as to where the choppers are more custom. And then Cody does heavy-duty off-roading thingies that I don't care.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'll be the first to admit that y'all are definitely way more mechanically inclined than I am. But I'm not willing, or I'm willing to try and fuck up. Because at the end of the day, either way, I'm going to have to pay somebody. Whether I either get it done myself and save a couple dollars, or if I fuck up and have to pay one of y'all, either way, it's either way, money out of my pocket. But I mean, and that's not to say that, you know, I don't think a lot of people really realize what it is that I do. I run 5-axis water jet or CNCs, and I run water jets and 100-foot plasma tables every day at work. So as far as if parts were needed, I could definitely make them, but everybody here really, for the most part, doesn't need custom stuff.
I do.
So,
I'll send you.
I
I'll
mean,
send you the CAD files. You remove the G code and send it on its way. How about that?
look, I'm gonna tell you like this: if you send a G code that's already done and you know that it's good, I mean, if I can't get it ran, my younger brother Cole, he's been a machinist now for almost 6 years, both manual and the technical side. I mean,
Nice.
he writes
I'm
G
not-
code.
I take responsibility for crashing machine. All right.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I was at work one time, and I don't think anybody here has fucked up more than I
This
have.
one time
As
at
far
band camp.
No. Look, I'm not going to name any names, but there was a large piece of metal, or businesses. There's a large piece of metal that fell, and it landed on a plasma table, and it ended up costing close to $1 million.
Damn.
So to say that I won't attempt something is an understatement. I mean, even working with you, you're literally the toughest person to work with, Seth. So
I am not.
that is a damn lie, because
I am a level-headed,
no,
calm,
No,
rational.
for anybody that's watching this, I learned very fast. If he leaves tools out, I'm going to put them back in the proper spot, because they're not going to get thrown at me.
I remember this.
and then, but the funniest thing is, he would get mad that he couldn't find his tool, and he's like, "Somebody's stealing my shit because they never put it up, and I'm never lending anything out to anybody." And then he'd go in his toolbox and be like, "Oh, there's my feeler gauge," or
So
here,
no.
or
So
here's my snap-on whatever. And
no. So we were doing. I remember this. We I think his name was Tony, with the R33, the like root beer, not the root beer, like the bronze colored R33.
The one that clogged its cat while we were on the expressway.
I think, but this was before that. This is when I came over to help you out and do his fuel system upgrade, because you just got you got one of those bandsaw things and a powder coating setup and your ultrasonic cleaner. Like, you got everything at once, right?
Yeah.
And so everything's kind of set up, and you're like, oh, and I got my TIG welder, so I'm gonna practice doing this like back purging bullshit. And I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, you had like your Allen wrench set out somewhere, and you would like put the ultrasonic cleaner on top of it. And I'm over here like, oh, like I need an Allen wrench to do this dude's like new radium fuel rail upgrade bullshit. And I'm like, yo, dude, I need like a number 6. And you're like, dude, I just had this shit right here. Like, you lost your shit, right, over the fact that you couldn't find this Allen wrench set. And you would like just put your ultrasonic cleaner that was still in the box on top of like your whole, because you had like the whole like T-handle set.
Yeah.
And you put your box on top of it, dude. And like,
Dude,
if you didn't pick that box up after like 10 minutes of cussing, dude, like wrenches were going flying.
That's not true.
I've seen it happen.
Shut up. Anyway, in other
Look,
words,
hold
me
on,
and
real
my
quick.
short-term memory loss.
he threw a wrench one time. I'm pretty sure that it was at me. It bounced off of his toolbox and came back and hit his car, and he got pissed and threw another one. Like, this was right after he put that. Well, what I can't remember at this point, but it was right after you had put that wide body
Yeah,
on the car.
Him and me a white
Yeah.
body.
I don't even think it was painted at that point.
No, it wasn't. Thank God. No, I had to have Juan come paint while we rebuilt the engine for that car show all at once. All right, so I'm gonna jump over real quick. So in motorsport news, we've got the next monster coming up. I think it's coming. There it is. So we got the next monster coming up in May. Got some Japanese drivers coming down. Donald from Pinku Style, David Living Life. I think Adrian knows him pretty well. And then Kana Ota coming down as well as Yukio Fosto. So this should be a pretty good time here in San Simon in the Philippines in May 25th. I know Adrian just had his event also not too long ago with his old racing crew out there in Florida and the East Coast. What's
they grew wings and flew away.
You clipped your wings and flew away?
Yeah, I clipped my wings so they flew away.
Then Juan, you've got some racing coming up, don't you? Some events out there in North Carolina.
Yeah, we've got so next weekend. Yeah, so next weekend we've got our season opener for short track racing. So I was actually just informed this afternoon that Dale Jr. is going to be out there racing for the INEX Cup Series, which is again short track, 8th mile, or excuse me, it's 4/10 of a mile, I believe. Short track, but essentially it's where these guys, it's where a lot of guys get their starts. But Dale Jr. retired from the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's just kind of really showing face and building rapport with some of the other NASCAR sanctioned tracks. So we've got 2 cars right now that we're going to be running. We got an 07 Eclipse that got put in the wall late last season. We've been working on it in the off season. Finally got it up and running. So we'll have our 07 Eclipse out there, which I have a 15-year-old driver. He just turned 15, Caleb Watson. He'll be driving the number 47 car. And then we've got the, what the fuck is it? 86 Daytona.
Oh, your extremely rare car that you're deciding to want to race.
Yeah,
Shelby
so we've got
Daytona.
we've got our 86 Daytona that just got we put a new throttle body on, got our distributor set, so everything's good to go on that car finally. It's been kind of a pain in the ass to get parts for, but like I said, we got our 86 Daytona that's going to be running number 46. And then, yeah, so we've got a couple other guys that want to join our team this season, so we're really scouting to see what we can do as far as getting other drivers in, but that's also going to depend on sponsors. So again, Seth from Watering Guys. So Seth from Watering Guys tuned in sponsors us as well. He was able to help out our young driver with some gear, so we appreciate that. But we've got a bunch of other sponsors that lined up already for this season. So it's looking promising. We're looking pretty good. Unfortunately, our local series is actually they're running us out of the bomber class. They don't want us running bombers anymore because of quote unquote safety issue. They want everybody to kind of move up to U cars, which the next from that would be Rumblers and Pro Stocks. So we'll see what happens, man. But like I said, 13th is going to be our season opener. It was supposed to be a couple weeks ago, but it got pushed back due to rain. So we'll see how that goes.
You need a running car to be a driver of, right? Maybe you can race for Juan.
Who, me?
No, Adrian. Adrian can
Yeah.
go race for Juan.
I can't stop building cars,
So,
to get to the driving part, like.
Funny story is
I think that's all of us.
We're not allowed to make suspension modifications, right? We can't camber, we can't change camber or caster, things like that. We got to run a stock like suspension. So if
You cut the trunk out.
Right, so we can cut
like,
whatever we want out of the car. It's got to be caged.
Well, now you
of
have
course.
my interest.
But we got freaking. If, for example, the Celica, a Toyota Celica will run the same thing as an Odyssey struts, which are stiffer. They'll fit. So it's a stock like suspension. We're not running Olins, we're not running teens, things like that. So it's got to be stock like suspension. But the funny funny thing is, when my driver put the car in the wall last season, he fucked the strut tower up. So now we've got negative camber on the outside wheel, which is to our benefit. And they can't do nothing about it. They tried to petition us on the last race, and I was like, it's stuck. They're like, well, no, it's not. You got camber. And I said, that's not camber, bud. That's my strut tower pushed in.
So that's your strategy now, is like first lap out of the first event of the season, just go stuff it into the wall
No.
to get
Hey,
your
no,
alignment
because-
specs right.
That's racing right there, bending the rules. All right,
So
back to
his,
the
we got fined $2,500 because my driver came out of turn 2, and he was supposed to come in for a tire change, but he chose not to. Ran it down to the wire on the rear end slid out, and he T-boned the wall and cracked the wall. So we got fined $2,500 to repair the wall.
Just blaster on that.
But to be honest with you, like any real NASCAR race, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I mean, if you really go back to old school NASCAR when it all began, obviously you got Shine running, how it all started. But I mean, you can find old pictures of like Dale where he's using his foot to lift up the car during inspection, so he's at proper height. And then once he takes his foot out, it dropped an inch or so, or as crazy as it is, I would never do it, but using their roll cage as a fuel reserve and having all that extra fuel in the vehicle so they didn't have to stop.
Yeah, so like I said, betting the rules, I'm all about it, man. As long as we're being safe. Ultimately, safety is our number one priority, especially when we got such a young driver behind the wheel. He didn't know how to drive at all. He didn't know how to drive stick. He's never been behind the wheel of a car, so his first time ever driving was on the racetrack, which is pretty exciting. Like I said, we've got the Eclipse running. It's not running great, but it's running, and I think we're going to be able to race on come the 13th. And the Daytona, from what I understand is we got a new throttle body and new distributor. But that car is not at my shop. It's at one of our sponsoring shops. So we'll see.
Nice. Hey, Adrian.
Yeah.
Let's try to go over to Adrian to get us canceled now. I know you wanted to share some of your thoughts on Facebook Marketplace earlier in the week.
Oh, man.
The floor is yours, Aladdin.
What? Okay, so where do we start? Like, what was it last? Because Facebook Marketplace is just, it's ridiculous, dude.
It's your segment. You tell us what you want. If you want a screen share, you just hit the little box with the arrow.
Oh, well. Are we talking about the off the wall build ideas of like?
Tell them whatever you want to talk about, Princess.
Okay, man. Because this is such a broad thing. The first thing is Facebook Marketplace is trash. All right, there's so much overpriced like crap on there because of COVID and whatever else happened in this country while I was not here to experience it, and like I just have to deal with the falling out of this crap. Like, oh, hey, we're short on chips, so brand new trucks you can't even get them. So 10-year-old trucks are now worth 3 times what they were in 2019, 2020. Then you have the thing where, like, okay, so I had sold my S14 Sylvia a year ago, like literally almost a year ago exactly. And, I had cash and I was like, I'm going to buy a C6 Corvette. So I messaged every ad, like every listing on Facebook Marketplace for a C6 Corvette that was manual for under $28,000. And I didn't even negotiate. I was like, I will show up with cash and pay your asking price if you can meet this weekend. And it's like a Thursday, right? I can pull up my chat history. Half of those messages never got read for cars that are like, I actually really wanted, like C6s. So it's like, on top of shit being overpriced, like Now you're trying to buy something from somebody, and they don't even want your money. But
I
it
think
gets
a
better.
lot of that has to do with the location. I mean, you being in Florida, I mean, a retiree state. There's a lot of people that have time and don't necessarily need money. So
Well,
it's
I mean,
more of a
But
when it's
that's what I'm.
I have
convenient
the
for
same
me.
problem in the
But that's what I'm
Philippines, though.
saying. Though is that's where it gets better. Is like on top of like. So on top of them just straight up ignoring the messages, because I mean I do like I just said, I'm trying to sell my SR20 stuff because I got screwed over on an engine, and I'd like it's a great deal compared to what everything else that's on marketplace. Like I think it's relatively well priced. You're paying current market value for 2 transmissions and a turbo, but you get the whole bolt-in turbo kit with a tuned ECU, front mount intercooler injectors, a spare head, like the 2 transmissions, a clutch kit, the drive shaft, like you get everything. And people are like, dude, can I get one main cap girdle bolt? Like I'm selling the crankshaft because it's a good crankshaft, right? The block has detonation damage on the outer ring, like on the chamfer. You could TIG weld it, deck it, hone it, whatever, reassemble it. I don't want to deal with it because, like I said, location, closest machine shop that could do that that's trustworthy is 3 hours away. I could care less. So I went out and bought a 6-liter LS and a T56. That's the route I'm going. But I'm like, for $200, you get the crankshaft and the entire bottom end with the rods, with brand new ACL race bearings, the oil pan assembly, the oil pump, like you get a whole bottom end. And people are like, yeah, but I really just want the one bolt. I'm like, buy the crankshaft. You get everything.
No, I want a bolt, bro.
Right.
I'll tell you.
So go on Z1 Motorsports and buy the
Oh
one
God.
bolt.
Well, I showed Adrian this earlier. This is my pet peeve with Facebook Marketplace. Besides the people not answering, which drives me crazy because when I was trying to buy the drift car a couple of weeks ago to get ready for this monster rating, couldn't get a response from anybody. Right? That drove me crazy. The other thing that drives me crazy about Facebook Marketplace is, one, take a picture of the item you're selling. Right? 2, maybe put any information in the Facebook
Have more
Marketplace,
than one picture.
like the price or any description of it. I'm going to share this. So I was looking for LS motors today here in the Philippines, just because I don't know, I'll put one in a Miata or something. Because I can. But what we got was this LS motor, and this was the only photo. Here it comes on Starlink and such.
What the fuck?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's the photo of the LS motor, I guess.
That's
There's some wires though. I don't know, man. So
is that a Gallo
Wait,
12
was it-
or a
wait
Gallo
a-
24?
Was it? Dude, they almost
Yeah.
look like motorcycle plastics.
right.
Right.
So
Like, I just,
Dude,
I mean,
but like
it's,
that's the thing though. Is like, I mean, granted, I know that I've sent y'all stuff from where I'm at, which isn't far from Juan. I mean, where somebody is selling an LS, and they're like, LS needs rebuilt, and it's like $600. Now, I hope people don't go out and buy them because, goddamn, we're running out of motors and transmission options to be cheap and actually have fun with. I mean, that's why I was saying, what's the next, vehicle that somebody could realistically purchase and have fun with it and not be, $60,000 into a car before you even drive it.
I mean, I think
But okay,
my
I'm gonna
opinion.
send you something, Seth,
Yeah,
that I want you to throw up.
sure. So to answer Cody's thing, man, I think the GT86 is that next car as far as import cars. Yeah, I'm seeing them. You know, they're wildly popular in Japan. You can't even get one anymore.
What is it?
Orders.
What is the BRZ FRS?
Yeah, the FRS GT86. They have the Gazoo Racing Edition.
And I mean, I'm not hating on it, but that goes back to, and I know the Subaru boys are going to hate me, but it's not exactly the most reliable motor to put into a car.
No,
I mean,
we've been talking about drifting on this podcast. Adrian, I'm going to share that ad in just a second. But
So
like the GT86 requires a lot of geometry work actually to be a comp level drift car, but it's still a good basis of a chassis.
So I know people that professionally drift that chassis, right? And then I also know people that do street stuff, and they're kind of like people in the like all ends of the spectrum. And the only people that really enjoy it are like the street kids that are like, you could honestly put them in any chassis and they're going to go smack a curb and be like, I had a great time. But anybody in a performance mindset, they're like, they hate it.
I definitely, I guess I could see that because I mean, I don't think there's a single Subaru out there that's used that hasn't probably seen a damn Cobb tuner put on it, or somebody trying to throw some type of power at it.
It goes beyond the motor. It's like the suspension geometry and all that. Like they don't grip the way they should. So this is my personal experience, right? Back to the Corvette thing. So working on Corvettes when I was in Las Vegas, I got a C5 myself there that I drifted. I drifted a couple C6s. And then, of course, I got my own C6 here in Florida. Those cars right out the box with the leaf spring suspension, all I did was a modded knuckle on mine. Dude, those things grip like an S chassis with like a $5,000 FEF or YSPAB rear end, like grip kit. Like the amount of forward bite that those cars have is insane for the design. And with, you know, when vet prices were a little lower like 3 years ago and new into the drift scene, you could go get a C5 for $8,000, which was cheaper than an LS swapped S chassis, put modded knuckles and a handbrake on it, and go drift it. Like you're all in all, you're $9,000 in, and you're out running like a Pro-Am spec S chassis that somebody would sell for $20,000-$30,000. So that's what these people are getting into. Like, hey, we're doing cash shootouts. Hey, we're doing Pro-Am shootouts and whatever. You have to come in with a chassis that can keep up with a Corvette out the box now. And so putting a GT86 up against that, or even like a chassis that's been as refined with the aftermarket support, like an S chassis, the BMW, like they can't keep up. So it's one of those cars where, okay, cool, it's a tuner car, but there are things that you have to go all out right out of the gate with.
Right.
And the first thing would be like suspension.
So, I mean, I think that the question really becomes, kind of circling back to Cody, is motorsports still accessible for the common person? You know, with the prices of RBs, JZs, SRs, like the engines that we used to kick around and trade for a case of beer back in Japan, we were all living there. I mean, even the Subaru stuff has quadrupled.
I got something on that too.
So I know when I first moved, y'all were already in Japan. When I first moved there, before I was told that my wife was pregnant, my end state was I'm leaving with a Mark IV Supra. That's what I've always wanted. It's what I'd like. I grew up in the drag racing scene. You know, the Texas 2K thing. And that was just a car I knew, you know, the 2JZ, that's the car for me. I knew Toyota's never been cheap, but reliability, I just need it to last while I'm on Okinawa, and then when I ship it out, I'm good. And at that time, I was looking at nice, you know, 6-speed twin turbo Supras for $14,000. I mean, hell, when I first got there, I mean, if you had, you know, a 4-door 34 or a C35 Laurel and you crashed it, like you paid $1,200 and went and bought a new one.
Yeah.
There was no trying to fix it. Like,
Well, I mean, a 34 GTST used to be $4,000, $5,000 all
Well,
day.
Adrian, didn't
remember,
you back a Safiro into a tree?
What's that?
Didn't Adrian back a Safiro into the tree?
No, dude, that was my chaser.
Oh, that's what it was.
but then like I don't know if y'all remember Adam and his wife had that 4-door 34 that they paid like $300 for, and he had like
Yeah.
$5,000 wheels on it.
So the import, I think the import community is definitely like for me to be honest, is motorsports still accessible? Yes, but not in the sense of how us, like the 4-5 of us, including Corey, and like the Okie fam and that community, not how we got into it, where before the 25-year rule, like I was buying JZXs for a couple grand a piece. Like I remember I went onto the, oh man, what was that shop out of Kadena? It's like right by the base.
Johnny's or Auto Shop Z or Dream Run?
Or Thomas.
No, so okay, you go like you're going to Up Garage, like come out of Kadena Gate 3, you make a right, and then at that bridge you make the left.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name. Yeah.
That was
there's
what,
two shops
like
on the right.
Metal Speed or something?
No, it was like something. It was Street or Runner or whatever it was. But I remember when I first got there, we went onto the yard, and they had two R32 GTRs, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, these are great." We go over them. They have N1 turbos, N1 oil pump. Like it's a R34 N1 RB26 swap. Beautiful paint. There's like 30,000 kilometers on the thing. It's sitting on TEs with like a Blitz Nurspec exhaust. Beautiful GTRs, and they're like 6,000 for one and 7,000 for the other. And I was like, you know what? That's too expensive for me. I'm good. And I walked away. And I went to the next car dealership over, and I bought a Supra, a twin turbo manual Supra, for $2,000 with JCI.
Damn.
I mean,
And that's what I drove.
So just for the viewers, so you guys understand, when he's saying $6,000 or $7,000 for these GTRs, like you got to understand now the market is so inflated. I mean, you're talking if somebody imported a R32, just a basic R32, RB26, you know, run of the mill GTR, we're spending $30,000-$40,000 on it now. You know,
No, you're not.
I mean,
that's on the bottom end because I've seen them go for so much more.
So
Where we're
same
located
cars
at.
right now, because I know I know who bought that blue car, and I saw it a couple years ago. And when it sold a couple years ago, it sold for like $45,000.
Oh yeah,
and that was the same
think
car
what
that I
Juan
turned
means
down for
is
$6,000, dude.
I think what Juan means is like where we're located at up here in North Carolina. If you go on Facebook Marketplace, back to that, or eBay Motors or Craigslist local to us, you're not going to find a 32 for less than $35,000. Let alone you probably won't find a GTST for less than 25. That's not rusted as shit.
From personal
Well, dude, my
$25,000 for $25,000, I can name 10 different cars that I would prefer over something that I can't get parts, next day.
Well, even
I'll tell you, I had a
hold up. So just my JZX that I have right now. I just want to say that my JZX that I have right now, and the only reason I hopped on it was because I know the dude would trade for my Corvette, but I knew that I would never have the cash to go out and buy a JZX 100 because you get them from the importers and you go on Facebook Marketplace and they're listed for anywhere north of like 28,000 right now, right? And this one had front end damage, and there's another one with damage on it, and they both want over $20,000.
Do you not remember
And
the TRD one that I had?
yes,
That
Yep.
I paid $2,500. Actually, no, I traded my 180 for it, and then I paid you. I think it was like $1,500 for the manual swap, and then I sold
Yeah.
the TRD cluster and the TRD steering wheel to Matt. I want to say it was Matt Kramer, and it paid
Yep.
for my swap. And then
Yeah.
when I left, well, I may or may not have gotten in trouble with that car, but when the car was sold, I sold the car for $4,500. Like, and that is
Yep.
one of my biggest regrets because, I mean, I love the car; it could fit my whole family, and I've yet to have a Toyota be a piece of shit on me. I mean, it just is what it is.
I absolutely hated my GTR. I hated it, but I wish I would have
Everybody
kept it.
hates their GTRs. People won't
So-
admit it, but the only reason they have it is because it's a money flex. Nobody
Dude.
likes those cars.
I had a so from experience, I had a guy. I do a lot of import work, right? Because I'd rather do import work. I do some Chevy work too, but I try to stay away from the other stuff. Now, I had a kid, Lance Corporal type. Of course, I'm here by the Marine Corps base. Had a Lance Corporal that made stupid money before he joined the Marine Corps. He went down to Texas, paid his buddy $30,000 for a 32 GTST. That was a Paul Walker lookalike. It was painted like Paul Walker's car. It's on my Instagram. You guys can check it out at Mahia Racing on Instagram. You guys can check it out. It's on there. But he paid $30,000 for that car. Then turn around and it's a GTST, and I'm like, okay. Try to sell it as a GTR. I turned around, I looked at the taillights. I said, dude, that's a GTST. I was like, you got RB25. And then I started spitting out facts to this kid because I met him at the gas station, and we were just chopping it up, talking, whatever. And he's like, yeah, you know how to work on these? I said, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the RBs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a genius. I'm not, Seth or Adrian with the RBs, but you know what I mean? Like, I know what I'm doing around them. Next thing I know, this car's coming in the shop. And I had it 3 or 4 different times, dude. And I'm like, you paid $30,000 for this car, and it's a piece of shit. Like, it looks cool, but it's a piece of shit. That's what the market. That's what the market has come to.
No,
You know what I mean? I had a dude.
end.
I had a dude when I first got to Oki. He paid $8,500 for a V-Spec 2.
Yeah.
So that's one side of the market because like I'm literally here on Facebook Marketplace on the computer, and like you have that end of tuning in motorsports, but I think what a lot of people do forget is where it all starts. Like you can still go on, like I'm literally looking 2005 Honda Civic for $3,000, Subarus for $3,000 to $5,000. And there's some little single cab trucks and whatnot. And I think getting into motorsports now, you can't do it with the mindset and tools and cars that we had. Like you have to have some type of ingenuity to sit here and say, hey, let me take this Mazda CX-3 and go out there and have my fun. And yeah, it's going to be a naturally aspirated motor, but like, what can I do to get going? Because now with how parts are coming out, like Seth, this because you literally deal 99% of the major brands that come out. Like everything is put at EFR, put a Haltech, put Olin's or whatever. Like that's now entry level for people like us. When we get a car, we're like, hey, we're going to do this right off the bat because we have that experience. But for people coming in right now, it's like, hey, what did we do when we first got started? Like my Fox body is still out back. And like that car, I went to the junkyard and like pulled Explorer heads, GT 40P or 40P heads. I poured and polished those. I put them on. I did plenum spacers and nitrous and all types of stuff. And it was all like, hey, I've got $100 here. I've got $100 there. What can I salvage together from a scrapyard or do some wheeling and dealing to get stuff going? And when you circle back to it now, after having every car at different levels of pro, grassroots, and everything, I would go back and pick one of those cars from back in the day that I started with than anything I'm doing right now.
Watch your mic.
Like hands down.
I think that honestly,
Hey,
I'm kind of in the same boat. Not that I've had, these high caliber cars or trucks, which I think some of them I have, some of my diesel stuff has been up there. But like, so my current project is a 57 Chevy truck. I've always wanted older trucks. My wife loves them, so it kind of helped me um, smooth it over when I brought one home. But other than the suspension geometry that somebody else has already figured out, because you can go buy the kit now for most of it, having a C4 Corvette suspension underneath of it, I mean, it's going to be a 350 truck, stroked out to a 383, and I'm just going to have my fun. It can handle, it'll be hopefully reliable, and I can drive it and not worry about if I break something, can I afford to fix it and have, yeah, of course I don't want to wreck it, but because it's almost a 70-year-old truck, but it I think everybody has this perception now of if I don't have the best of everything right away, then it's a problem. Whether it's competing or they feel like they can't fit in at the local cars and coffee, um, and it's not
That's
the
just
case.
social
I
media.
mean,
so
That's social media,
hold on,
and
I want
that's
to jump
the
in here.
effect of social media on that.
Yeah, I want to jump in here because you brought up some interesting points. Because what you brought up, I'm doing right now, actually. So I picked up this R33 GTST, right? And it's running, it's got basic BC coilovers on it, some traction arms, angle kit, cut knuckle angle kit, things like that. But I'm doing exactly what you're talking about. I'm putting a bolt-on GTX on it. I'm putting my Haltech in it because I'm a Haltech factory dealer and a tuner, right? And I'm putting in drop-in injectors because while I know how to do and I have access to, like you said, every part basically under the sun, and we all seen what I did with like my builds that I don't care about how long they take, and I take time and I do everything out of titanium and custom CNC, all that bullshit. But I know how to get to 500 horsepower, right? I know how to get where I need to go. And that comes from what Adrian's talking about, what Cody's talking about. It comes from where we started. When I started with my original WRX I had back in 2003, when I had my first S chassis, when I had my first work, I didn't have the money I had now. I didn't have a business. I didn't have access to wholesale. So I was literally on Craigslist, apart, modifying a part, welding a part, cutting a part, whatever needed to happen to get the flow through, to get the power, right? And it was, hey, let's go out, let's use it, let's see what fucking breaks. When it breaks, we fix it. I mean, I became a master at fiberglass hair, Bondo, and rattle canning because I put that fucker into the wall like every weekend. My old S13. So you got to start somewhere. You don't need the best of everything. Guys like us that have the experience, we put these higher end parts in a lot of times. One, because we've used all the other stuff. We know what works and we know what makes an actual difference and what doesn't, right? Like I can get by on TN coilovers, but I know that Olin's is going to handle a whole lot better on the grip up, right? Or the transitions. So there's a method to it. You want to say something?
I definitely. Yeah, go ahead, Juan, and I got something to add to what you just said.
Yeah, so like you guys are talking about, man, like I'm going to turn the camera real quick. So I got this picture in my office, okay? All you guys know that car.
I remember that.
All of you guys know that car, okay? That was my 99 GC8, okay, that had 3 motors put in it, all right? Just like you guys are saying, man, we all start somewhere. And that car is what started what I'm doing now. Yeah, I specialize in building motorcycles and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm a racer, man. And I love going fast. I know what it takes to get to where I need to be, and that's what a lot of us have in common is we know what it takes to build the power. We know what it takes to have the skill and the ability to go out there and do something on the track. You know what I mean? And these guys are chasing clout, right? As this new generation says, right? Clout. Right, they're looking to fit in at the Cars and Coffee. They're looking to fit in at the racetrack. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they don't know what it takes to come from the bottom and dig this shit out the mud. You know what I mean? And just like I tell anybody that asks me about business, I got my business out the mud. I didn't have investors. I didn't have support. I didn't have my parents coming out and giving me money. I didn't have none of that. I got this shit out the mud. I took out my TSP. For those that aren't military, that don't know what it is. It's like your 401k. I withdrew my entire TSP to start my business, and I was blessed to be successful. 5 years later, I'm still running. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like I completely connect with what you guys are saying as far as getting the parts out. I have a picture, actually, those guys that remember Mitch White, he was one of my soldiers. But
Yeah.
we were in Miyabi's junkyard pulling out motor mounts after I wrecked into the wall and broke my motor mount.
Yeah, I remember.
We had two scissor jacks underneath another Subaru pulling motor mounts. At the end of the day, like, we did what we had to do just to be able to get some seat time. You know what I mean? And it took everything out of it. Dude, at the time I was what? I was an E3 making every bit of $900 a paycheck. You know what I mean? Living overseas, constantly off island, having to pay, not getting set wraps, things like that. But I had to make ends meet. And I wanted to race. And I'm grateful for, Seth and Adrian for getting me into the race scene and getting me that seat time that I needed, and pushing me to that, to that level of, let's be competitive, and at the end of the day, again, where I'm at today, you know what I mean, speaks volumes on where we started. Just because we're putting that hull tech or putting that, just because we're putting that hull tech in, or we're putting, that nasty angle kit, or, we're putting that Tomei exhaust and the EFR twin scroll, you know what I mean? Like, just because we're putting all these big name parts on our car doesn't mean that we're doing it just to be cool. No, we've been there. We've had that junkyard turbo that blew up on us. You know what I mean? We've had that,
Dude, I'm still there.
we've had that bullshit welded diff. We've had that bullshit welded diff. You know what I mean? Like, we've all been there.
Hey, don't hate on that diff, because I had one that I would driving 90 miles an hour every day.
Yeah, but you guys get the point. You know what I mean?
I don't know who
that's
welded
the problem.
it. Probably wasn't. Actually, you know what? Adrian welded that diff, and that diff was like, it was drifted on for like 4 years before it ever got put in that JZX.
Because that was my diff.
Yeah.
See,
so
it goes back to, you're a good mechanic or welder when it's your shit.
But no. So here's the thing, because I was actually going to say that
hang
because
on, I got one more thing. Guys.
All right.
So
You gotta wrap it up too.
Yeah. So the other side of that too is we talk about freaking damn, I lost my train of thought. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so
go ahead, Adrian.
All right.
Last thing.
So, and to think that this all started with like a flex welder and Oki, like when I cut the trunk out, we went to like Make Man or something and bought like square steel tubing that was galvanized for like making fences. And that was my tubular rear end. There was no bending. It was just like straight square tubing, like butt jointed up together and flux core welded. And like the steering knuckles were all flux core welded. The diff was flux core welded. Like the body panels when we did wide body was all flux core. And what's funny is, like, when I built that pro car on the West Coast, I go to California to do a shootout, and I built that whole car, possibly a handle of Jameson in a night. And I show up to race, dude, and I'm like, yo, I was still doing everything for tech at the competition. Like, I passed tech 2 hours into when practice started. So then by the time I go out, there's no alignment on the car. There's nothing. I'm on like 400 treadwear street tires. Everybody else is on R compounds. And I'm the only car on cut knuckles out there. And I'm going fourth gear, banging limiter, chuck it in, huge angle. And one of the guys that's like the craziest driver probably out there, like, he's throwing big angle, he's full throttle, banging limiter with his like boosted LS. He comes up to me and he goes, dude, I really want to drive with you. Like, I love your driving style. You're throwing all this angle, like, and he's like, you're not even on WiseFab and you're throwing more angle on initiation than me. Right? I'm like, dude, you want to hear something crazy? I didn't even do the alignment on this car. So it wasn't until I sold the car that the buyer kind of strung it all up. Every corner is pointed in a different direction and nothing square. There's like 2 inches. There's like 2 inches of toe in. Yeah, there's 2 inches of toe in the rear, and it's like an inch and a half on one side and half an inch on the other. And the caster's off. So like the wheels aren't even sitting square. One's pushed forward and one's pushed back. And it's the same thing for the front. It was like negative 10 degrees camber on one side, negative 5 on the other. Same thing with the toe. The caster is off. Like everything's janky. And I show up to this competition and I'm running with Michael Essa's old BMW. Like a Pro 1 Formula Drift spec car. And I threw down a heater lead run and I spun in the chase because obviously I was stupid. But it was a great time, dude. And everybody comes up and they're like, bro, you had one of the fastest overall lap times. Like, you were throwing big angle. You were going all out. The dude that I lost to came up to me and he was like, hey, when I had to chase you, I wasn't expecting somebody to go that fast. And I'm like, yeah, I drag race the straightaway. Like, I don't rely on power and torque and all this crap to like pick up and like get the car sideways and okay, now I'm comfortable. Let me get on throttle. But we started by doing that and pushing janky cars with mediocre setups and janky parts and breaking shit and going and finding the limitations. So even now when we have the nice stuff, it's different versus people that are just getting into it with the nice stuff. Like, I will drive a car at a different level with nice parts than somebody that just buys the parts and doesn't have the experience.
Yeah.
I mean,
All
I
right.
think
We got to wrap this up, guys. If anyone out there listening enjoyed this, it'll get hosted up. We'll have all the social medias and the comments and stuff for all the different shops. But we'll do this again, and we'll figure out the next subject to bullshit on, whether it's Adrian's figure skating career or Juan's built mud business. All right. So appreciate you guys joining me today. Everyone, take care. We're out.